Coleman entering the stage, the first player. This man has just blown me away with his performance. I did not know anything about Coleman, and I kind of feeling the same thing that I felt when I met Shaggy in the first Gwent Open. It's that kind of presence, that kind of dominance, that kind of just outstanding knowledge of the game, and his passing and the ability to overcome difficult matchups. He's just been an excellent player, and now we see Freddy. What's to say about Freddy?
Freddy's just a great player. We've seen him already perform so well in so many tournaments as well. Gwent Slam and Gwent Open, and as well on the pro ladder, did get him that ticket to Gwent Open, which ultimately punched his ticket to Gwent Challenger, and now he's here in the big chair on the big stage fighting for the ring right now. What a great matchup. I mean, it's really hard to call. It's really tight. What do you think about this one, Son?
I think the biggest difference between these two players, of course, Freddy having more live tournament experience, barring, is that Freddy, if anything at all, strikes to me to be the much more prepared one in terms of just having the perfect lineup built, whereas I would describe Coleman as much more adaptive. We saw him switching up his ban, and I'm actually quite curious, speaking of which, to see what Freddy ends up banning here, because Coleman isn't bringing Henselt, he's bringing Full Test. So Freddy might actually switch his ban from Full Test to something else.
And Freddy, on Freddy's side, also not bringing Henselt, having Radovid. So all that talk about Henselt and how good it is when you can plan out which turn you're going to be playing it on, or on the red coin or the blue coin. Ultimately, the Northern Realms list that get in, Henselt left out in the cold here as the players get prepared here. And we're going to see the bans on the screen in just a moment.
I love how you mentioned that he has such good adaptive skills, and that is such a great statement, because Coleman did, in my opinion, have an underwhelming matchup against Tailbot in the semifinals, and was able to completely overcome him. It's just very difficult to express how this is so hard to predict. Like I can't even throw a prediction at this matchup. Both players, it's not the finals anybody expected. At the same time, people were talking about potentially Shaggy and Life Coach. Everybody thought Life Coach was gonna make it to the finals 100%, and then Freddy goes ahead and 3-0s him. How do you 3-0 Life Coach? Like, oh Lord.
Well, that's a pretty difficult feat to be sure, but this is going to be it. This is the final game, and I think looking over the deck lists here, the biggest difference between these lineups, because they are actually relatively similar, Radovid being not entirely dissimilar from Full Test, a major variant tech choice, but the same shell of a deck. The biggest difference in these matchups is going to be the participants' Skellige decks. Freddy, of course, having his Crack Curse deck, and of course Coleman having his Brand deck with Scorch Surprise.
Yeah, and Freddy, the only player today to bring Curse Skellige, and has been extremely successful with it, as other players have opted to bring the likes of, as you said, Discard Brand or Great Swords. He's had some very unique choices, and Radovid is nothing new to him as well. I think he's brought Radovid to pretty much every single tournament, and is a very solid choice, and he knows very well how to pilot, and it's also very flexible, because he could counter all sorts of different strategies, not only Emir Spies, but also the likes of King Brand as well. As we saw, it was very efficient against Life Coach's Discard Brand because of the ability to shut down both Ceres and Old Gear, which is absolutely devastating for that archetype.
Yeah, regardless of what Freddy bans here, his Radovid is going to be having great value.
You see the deck list here. The ban is not placed yet.
Drum roll, here we go.
Don't know.
Ooh,
oh, wow!
Northern Realms, hey!
Double ban on Northern Realms. Unexpected.
Coleman switching his ban every single set. I love it.
He feared. We were just talking about how good his Radovid is, and Coleman is like, hey, this is perhaps your most dangerous deck. I don't like it. You're not playing it. Nilfgaard on both sides. The first time ever in this tournament in which both players have Emir Sama free. This is greatness.
It looks like the strongest kingdom has shifted here. Both players giving respect to Northern Realms, and Coleman, he did a little bit of a respect ban to Tailbot earlier. Understood that Unseen Elder was one of Tailbot's best decks, and one of the decks that he is most skilled with, giving a little bit of recognition with Freddy Babes, a very well-known Northern Realms player, bringing Radovid, showing how good Radovid is as a general leader, and Freddy giving that same respect back, identifying that, in a series like this, Full Test actually would pose a threat here. So we're not going to see Northern Realms here. We are going to see Emir. We're going to see Nilfgaard in both sides for the first time in this tournament. What a shift from the beginning, where we saw Emir banned 6 times out of 8 in the quarterfinals, and now it's like, no problem. We see Emir get 3-0 twice already. Let's see how Emir's going to do here.
Going to be Freddy's prepared list versus Kolomon's adaptability. Take it away, boys.
Here we go, the finals, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready? We see both players going on with Unseen Elder. There's going to be quite a few mirrors going on here, as both have Unseen Elder, Emir, and the difference, as Swim mentioned earlier, is the Skellige lineup, as both players going with the mulligans. We see pretty decent looking hands on both sides.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the lists here, it's interesting. The lists are very similar, and I'm just trying to find out, a lot of the differences. There are some differences here. Freddy has opted to take Germain of Fox Hollow and Commander's Horn, and that's a great package here as well, whereas Kolomon is going a bit more traditional. He does have the triple Ekamara, as does Freddy. And I think the biggest difference is probably the Germain Commander's Horn. So we're going to see a lot of variation in silvers. Kolomon does have the single ghoul, just for a little bit of extra insurance to get value out of Manticore perhaps a little bit later. But for the most part, I mean, the gold choices, the one big difference, of course, Freddy Babe's really kind of leaning on Yennefer and Royal Decree to get that insurance on Yennefer or Woodland Spirit, whereas Kolomon has more about Kayran, Gels, Woodland Spirit, and Renew as well in his deck.
The question about this matchup is will Yennefer be able to generate as massive of a tempo swing as it has in prior matchups? Because as you said, both lineups have a very similar bronze core. So even though Kolomon is like the likes of Germain, he does also run triple Seleno Harpy, and he has a lot of swarm capabilities himself. So it's going to be interesting to see how Freddy can get that good value out of it, as we see an open pass from Kolomon. This is like one of the few instances in which an open pass is justified in an Unseen Elder list in a mirror, because both decks function very similarly. So even though your game revolves around carryover, so does your opponent's.
Absolutely. Now, giving this to Freddy Babes, I mean, it does give Kolomon a card advantage going into this, and it is a good way to kind of right the ship when it comes to, not really wanting to go first. But in a mirror, in a lot of situations, mirrors do kind of encourage you to perhaps do the open pass here. Freddy's going to maybe develop some carryover here just with a 6 strength Ekamara. That is going to carry into the next round, which will enable the Slizzer to pull it. So that's probably the best possible thing he could have played there. He does have, now Freddy is basically in the driver's seat for the rest of this. I imagine we're going to see a fairly long round 2. Going into a short round 3, but it's possible that neither player wants carryover to be built. Is it possible that we could see a very long round 3 instead?
It could be. Now, one of the key things about that Ekamara is, as you pointed out, not only this Slizzer synergy, but it also gives him obviously a pretty nice head start into this round. I think Freddy definitely wants to push Kolomon here. He can get an extra card out of him passing here, right, and lead to a very long round. But why not attempt to utilize that carryover advantage to get the upper hand and put him in a rough spot? Yes, it can be a difficult thing to do in mirror matches, but it's definitely not impossible. Both players holding double Necker in hand is a very solid thing to do, but the difference is Kolomon has the Frightener and Manticore, but no Toad Prince, as Freddy Babes does have Dorgaray and Abaya for some nice interesting. But he's gonna go for the open pass.
Oh man, we're gonna get a little bit of one round Gwent in the Unseen Elder Mirror. I'm already very entertained.
Oh, let's go.
This is gonna be an intense single round of Gwent we're gonna watch. It's the best of 3 format in every game, but the players are just like, no. We're just going to do this one long round. No carryover is going to be established for each of these decks, which rely so much on carryover. This is going to be a tantalizing mirror for sure.
The big difference here, though, looking at both hands, Kolomon has to discard his, mulligan away his Frightener, right? Unless he plans to generate weather with Abaya and combine, that with Frightener and Alexa Dorgaray into Drowner. But the thing is, because it's most likely that he has to discard that Frightener, unless he wants to, consume it with the Toad Friends, he has double Ekamara in hand, which is definitely a detriment, as Ekamara loses a lot of value if you don't get the carryover prowess of it. And we're going to see a clear mulligan here in one of the Neckers by Freddy.
Freddy would love to see Neckarat right now, because Freddy is running that. It is one of the silver differences here. Yes. Neckarat can steal that Manticore out of the graveyard, and that could be... There it is!
There it is!
That's pretty big. That's a pretty big draw right there.
Oh, let's see what Kolomon gets. He gets the
Boglet!
No!
Not a good draw.
Ooh, that's so bad.
In a game this close, in a one-round match, basically, Kolomon has to play the Ghoul right away because he knows that Freddy is running Neckarat.
There is a big difference in quality in this hand. Double Ekimara, which doesn't seem like it's going to provide much, barring being able to consume one of the... I mean, it can spawn the Harpies out of the deck and that. Like, they're not completely useless by any means, but that Foglet on top of that, it feels like it really hinders his hand quality. Well, Freddy's hand is looking extremely solid. He does have the potential to generate Ekimara, so he can consume the Woodland Spirit potentially this round, and with the Ekimara, and reutilize it with Renew. So he could potentially spawn double weather, even though Abaya is in Koloman's hand, so he has to wait for it, I believe. So it's going to be very interesting how both players sequence. We have a perhaps one of the longest round 3s we've seen in this entire tournament, and it's going to be very interesting to see, because we have said before that Koloman is one of the most adaptive players out there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a long round 3. We're already in round 3, but just like at the beginning of any game of Gwent, it's extremely hard to call right here. Two great players in a very similar matchup. Both players holding Woodland Spirit, both players holding Weather Clears as well. However, both players have the Renew. Both players have a way of taking care of their gold cards. So it's very interesting here, like how many times, like, is a Fog going to stick? Ekimara can eat the Woodland Spirit on Koloman's side. Dorgray can create the Ekimara that can eat the Woodland Spirit on Freddy Babe's side. So with Renew, even though we are in almost a graveless game right now, Renew won't be dead.
Renew will not be dead. It's going to be interesting to see how he gets value out of the Slizzards, though, because he definitely has to combine them with... Because one of the things is he can generate an Ekimara. So Slizzard can target one of the Ekimaras, and the other Slizzard can target one of the Seleno Harpies that will end up being consumed by Unseen Elder to proc one of the Harpies. So definitely, it feels like Freddy's hand is full of options, and every single card represents value, which the same cannot be said for Koloman. And the fact that he's played Abaya so early on means that second Woodland Spirit pretty much has no answer.
This is very interesting. Freddy, instead of holding onto Abaya for a potential Weather Clear on Koloman's Woodland Spirit, it actually plays another weather effect here, because there's no way to clear an additional weather effect, and the Renew will be coming out of Woodland Spirit. Freddy Babes will be able to apply 2 rows of weather where Koloman will not. In a long round, that attrition could be huge. Freddy Babes is definitely in a fine position here. He will be able to get value off the Slizzard because he'll be able to source one of the Ekimaras, and possibly Dorgray will be able to create something else in the graveyard for the other Slizzard. Freddy is running 2 Slizzard, whereas opposed to Koloman only running 1. But all players drew all their Slizzards in a game where Graveyard is going to be at a premium.
That is such a good point, Dane. The fact that he's able to generate 2 rows of weather in such a long round means absolutely everything in this kind of matchup. Freddy is looking to punish Koloman for that early pass. A strategy that we've seen implemented a lot throughout this tournament and was very efficient throughout the quarterfinal matches. But now, this kind of approach can also be punished. And this long round is definitely gonna be a very, very difficult time for Koloman if he is not able to deal with the weather.
It's interesting because both players are likely holding on to Unseen Elder to attract all of their Harpies out here. So, you eat all the Wolves up, and in Freddy's case, he does have a Germain option as well. Slizzard will be able to source the Ekimara at this point, so this is probably fine. This will get at least 1 Harpy out as well.
No, I think he's aiming for the Woodland Spirit. Yep.
Yeah, well, that is also another way to do it. I mean, he does have Dorgray, but here's the interesting thing. Dorgray could have been an Ekimara, but it's actually probably going to be a Drowner to make sure that he can get as much value as he can out of both rows of weather, because neither player is running Drowners just as a bronze card in the deck. Dorgray can source it for both players, but Freddy with that extra row of weather, I mean, that could make the difference. It's still very hard to call here. We're both like leaning over here. We're very, very into this match already.
That's another excellent point. Like, why utilize Dorgray with Ekimara when you can just generate a Drowner, and if you're going to go for double weather? Him consuming Woodland Spirit so early on there is definitely the correct play, because you want to spawn the weather as early as possible. Like, both players have full knowledge of each other's deck list, so he knows 100% that he will not be punished for this, aggressive utilization of the hazards.
Absolutely. Now, I wonder if Freddy was waiting for the Woodland Spirit to come down from Koloman before he decides to commit that second row of weather. The thing is, Freddy's going to want to make sure that there's a fairly sizable row before he commits that second weather. We see Abaya is going to die on the next turn. Koloman will have nothing on that row, whereas Freddy is able to perhaps Freddy can apply the fog on the range throw, but in order to keep getting value on that range, he'll need to Drowner something in there that's going to probably, he wants to get value out of as many rounds as possible. Woodland Spirit dies basically right away if the Drowner pulls it in, so he's looking for something a little bit more meaty.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Coleman will be able to actually do that. He only has one row to play on at this point, no clears anymore. He can save things with Unseen Elder. So, I mean, there are ways around it. So, Freddy, it's all about maximizing the weather at this point.
Now, it's also important to note that while Freddy Baby is able to generate both fog and rain, Coleman can easily apply double fog himself. He has an Ekimara in hand, or he can just go for the Unseen Elder as well. He can consume the Woodland Spirit, even though he's opting to not do that right now. He just wants to go for the Harpies first. And these Harpies spawn randomly too, so one of them could potentially spawn in the rain, but oh, there it is. The last one does enter the rain, and those 3 points are gonna go away eventually. But as I said, he can utilize Renew himself and also spawn the Woodland Spirit too. So we may have double weather wars going on here.
It's gonna be... It's so close already. I'm such a huge fan of this here. Unseen Elder is an option for Freddy as well. I mean, going kind of blow for blow here, punch for punch, you know, just kind of mimicking here. Freddy can get the Harpies out here with Unseen Elder while there's still a chance to do so. Like, there's nothing that's going to potentially hurt those wolves for a while. But, you know, there's not necessarily a reason to rush it at this point. He does have the Solano Harpies on top of that, so there's going to be lots of beasts out there. Freddy Babe's making a decision, thinking about perhaps playing the Drowner or playing the Drowner from Dorgare.
I think this Dorg, he could perhaps wait an extra turn.
I do not mince words.
He is bound to get maximum value of that rain regardless, but he's going to have to go for it now. Going to drag that Unseen Elder onto the Siege row, damage it by 4, and Rain will proc and deal 1 damage to 2 random units on said row. In this case, you know, it's only 2, so there's no RNG involved. As Freddy has a 2-point lead over Coleman with both players sticking at 8 hands. This is still a very long round ahead, and it's looking very intense.
I mean, I'm looking at the power play potential right now. We already saw the Ghoul eat the Manticore, and that's like the big power play that Coleman was kind of counting on. Freddy still has Commander's Horn, so if he's able to get a Commander's Horn row at maximum value, that 20-point play is a pretty huge swing right now. Coleman looking at the potential to replay Woodland Spirit. Freddy's already done that at this point. And of course, Dorgray does represent a pretty strong swing as well with the Drowner into the fog. And, you know, from then on, I mean, it could be about cycling Neckers, Coleman getting a lot more consume effects going early on. A lot of the time, you can look at this as who has more consume effects, who's going to have the larger Neckers overall at the end of the day.
We did see him go for the Ekimar right there, consuming the Woodland Spirit. They're definitely setting up that Renew and answering, you know, Freddy's double weather with his own double weather. So it's going to be a foggy and, you know, somewhat rainy day in today's event. And we see Freddy Babes hovering over the Solano Harpy. Now, one of the questions is, will he be able to find decent value with the Necrorat? Because the Ghoul did consume the Manticore immediately, and that was not a coincidence. Coleman is aware of the fact that Freddy does run Necrorat, so he wanted to avoid that from happening. And right now, in the graveyard, we only see, I believe, a Baya and a Ghoul. So that's not much value. That's only like 9 value for Necrorat plus the 2 buffs on Necker. So he definitely wants to try to get something a little bit beefier in there.
I mean, the biggest thing that could be possible for Necrorat here, I mean, as far as what's in hand right now and what's on the board, is Drowner. Freddy does have Germain, and he does have Cleaver in his deck as well, so there are some larger body options, but they're just not here.
They're not here, and they're not going to be a part of this match. This is it. Like, no player has any sort of draw mechanic, barring Slizzard, which will only, you know, break something out of the deck. So this is it, folks. Like, what they have in hand is the tools they have to try to win this game. Mankind is the virus. Instead of going for, oh, I actually like this.
Yeah, taking a lot of oomph out of that fog row. The fog's just going to get 3 more value, and that's that at this point.
I like that play from Coleman. Again, another testament to how much of an adaptive player he is. And because he's already played Unseen Elder, his Neckers are literally double thickness right now in comparison to Freddy's. But Freddy does still have Unseen Elder, and he has a lot of consumption mechanics available to him still. So you can definitely, it's going to be, I believe Freddy's Neckers are going to be overall a little bit weaker, but not so much to the point where I think it will be game defining, I feel. That Commander's Horn, as you said, is extremely powerful. He's yet to play the Unseen Elder and pull out all the Harpies out of the deck. So Freddy still has a lot of power behind him, while Coleman, I'm just looking at that Foglet, man. Like the entire hand, the rest of the hand looks pretty good, but that Foglet, that's so bad.
When you're going card for card in a mirror in a long round 3, having a Foglet in your hand is definitely not good.
It's gonna come down to some crazy plays here.
Here comes that second row of weather from Coleman, who may actually turn for turn, and starting from this point, get a lot more value here.
Fog taking on the Drowner right there, setting Freddy Babes down to 44 points. We see Freddy Babes in full-on turbo life coach mode. Really debating, you know, I love the prior match, by the way, when both were like exactly the same pose.
The body language from both players. I mean, a lot of it is about kind of shutting out the world around you so you can focus on the game as like, but it's really just, you know, it's the sign of focus. It is the tunnel vision.
And Coleman is kind of like, eh.
Coleman is just so focused. Had a chance to chat with him just a little bit in between his matches here. He was, you know, he agreed, everybody agreed that that was such a fantastic best of 5 between him and Tailbot.
Yes.
Got him here to the finals against Freddy Babes, 3-0ing life coach in the semifinals. It's really, the storyline for both of these players is really something. You know, a guy who's really proven himself in tournaments in Freddy Babes and a guy who's really proven himself to, you know, a lot of the best players. No Coleman, thought that maybe people weren't giving Coleman enough credit, and here he is. He's made some fantastic plays. The dark horse.
That's dark horse indeed, and I am one of those who did not think he would pass Azekov in the quarterfinals. But in my defense, I just did not know enough about the player. He was the least known by far out of all the competitors, but he's definitely made a name for himself today. And this is exciting for a game like Gwent when new names, new faces arise, and you just see that, you know, the pool, the pond is larger than you think. I'm trying to be a little bit philosophical here, but I'm feeling tremendous, eh? I tried at least.
So Unseen Elder is still available here from Freddy, so he'll be able to get those to get the Harpies out of the deck one way or another. But I'm interested to see. It's possible that he goes for. I'm trying to think. Like, it's kind of the same thing. If he eats the wolves or eats the eggs, well, the eggs are better. Is it better just to eat the eggs instead of sourcing the Harpies? He doesn't have to worry about drawing or mulliganing or anything like that.
Well,
let's get the hatchlings as well, on top of the fact that the Harpies are 4, the eggs give you a 4 plus the hatchlings.
But he does have to consume some of them at least, because he does need to get that Slizzard value as well, and he does consume one of the Nectars too. Harpies spawn out, and Harpies also dealing damage to the weakest units on the field there, and we see Freddy Babes with a 20-point lead when both players have the same amount of cards, and he still has Lizard, he still has a Necker, which is, you know, not that much power if you think about it, but that toot, that Commander's Horn, now that is something else right there.
Players starting to speed up a little bit now. The players have pretty defined stuff to play. K-Ren's going to look for the closest thing to a 6 on Freddy's board, which is looking like it's Necurat or Woodland Spirit, but probably just trying to get the best thing you can get. Or of course the Harpies on top of that. Freddy Babes has Commander's Horn, and he's going to play this Necker right now.
And that is all she wrote, folks.
The Commander's Horn is going to be enough here.
Wow, what an outstanding
first game of this series. Freddy Babes going up 1-0 in the finals here at Gwent Challenger, winning the Unseen Elder Monsters Mirror in a 1-round game of Gwent. Obviously, there were 2 rounds before it, but they were extremely short. No carryover, low graveyard play, and just really sequencing. That rain play from Abea was really good for Freddy, I think, in that one.
That was definitely an awkward way to see an Unseen Elder Mirror play out, but that Freddy definitely punishing that open pass from Coleman, and both players capitalizing on the combination of consumption and renew with the Woodland Spirit, and treating a long round how they should. You know, you technically see that kind of deck play out, like focusing on the carryover and basically pushing through that round to consumption mechanisms, but in that case, they were led off to an extremely long round 3, and it was all about rain, it was all about fog, and Freddy overcame Coleman right there and moves on to 1-0 as round 2 begins shortly.
It's interesting, Dagon's been kind of out of the tournament scene for the last little while, but then it all did come down to Weather Monsters in a way, after all. Weather kind of telling the story there. And you know, I think that Foglet draw, it was pretty far. It was pretty far. The gap was pretty divided there. That Commander's Horn was the power play that Freddy needed there, where Coleman just kind of his plays got smaller and smaller until ultimately he dropped the Foglet. Freddy probably felt pretty good to see that.
Yeah, both players showing no intimidation whatsoever in the face of this Nilfgaardian soldier. I honestly, crumbled a little bit, but that's why these are, the top Gwent players in the world. Freddy Base probably didn't even see it. So focused on the
totally
screen.
Focused. I mean, we're here to play some Gwent, right, Freddy? We're just here to play some Gwent.
Now, who do you think will Coleman lead off with, as it is the blue position, so that means he's going to go second this time around, which means he can try to abuse that, but neither player has Northern Realms, which has seemed to be the most efficient faction at abusing the coin flip in this tournament.
And it's going to be Elder another shot. I'm wrong.
Baby, another mirror.
Here we go, another mirror.
I feel at home. I'm excited for this one.
Well, we're in the heart of Nilfgaard right now, Mogwai. So seeing a Nilfgaard mirror, finally, Nilfgaard.
Finally.
How
dare you?
No, I'm just saying that Nilfgaard is it's very refined. Now the differences between these decks are, I would say, so slim. There's really only very few differences. Peter Sar Gwenlev and Peter Sar Gwenlev on Coleman's side, Freddy having, hold on a second, let me just make sure I'm looking at the right thing, because this is a mirror, of course. This is a mirror. Of course, on Freddy's side, he is running Peter Sar Gwenlev. Coleman prefers to run Roach. 3 Vikovara medics for Coleman, but there's only 2 for Freddy. I'm looking at the differences beyond that there.
Now, one of the interesting things here is that Freddy is running Vanhamar, right? So Vanhamar has, we see no weather clear whatsoever from Coleman, so a well-timed frost may be an approach that Freddy opts to take if the round is long enough. One of the other differences going on here that is very impactful in a Nilfgaardian mirror match is the fact that Freddy Babes has the Guardian in his opening hand, while Coleman does not. And of course, he's going to lead off with him. He has to be very careful, though, because Coleman himself has muzzle, and he can combine the likes of the Impera and Enforcer to try to steal the Guardian, though Freddy does have a couple of ways he could counter that. One, he could emir the damaged Guardian back to his hand to take away all the damage, or he could even Peter it. But Peter in this matchup is something you generally want to preserve for the likes of Impera Brigade or a Joaquin.
Absolutely. Peter will find a home here. It looks like he's going to go straight up and drop Salak to the Savior Salak play and scoop back up into the hand here. Just trying to get some of that engine going that Nilfgaard runs here. Emperor Brigade is going to be that first piece. It's going to grow right away. Salak going to get picked up immediately.
I like that opening with the Kahir right there, getting Roach out of the deck as well. With Azir in hand, he could build up for a very powerful late round, as Freddy has to ensure, I think the most key thing in this round 1 is he has to ensure that the Guardian stays on his side of the board, and he has to ensure that the Death Wish goes off, because the Guardian is ironically the most impactful in a mirror match, as it will send 2 Lesser Guardians to the deck and thus really mess up your emissary pulls, as the Lesser Guardians are also bronze cards and they're only 6 strength melee units, so they're very bad is what I'm trying to say here, and it's definitely gonna make things very difficult for Coleman if it ends up that way, as Emir goes down into Kalak, goes for that tempo play.
I cast myself upon thy mercy.
Pulling the emissary and getting that chain. Will he pull the enforcer? He does. He does. He comes very close to eliminating the Oh, he misclicked. He misclicked.
Was that a misclick?
No. Actually, no. Sorry, that was not a misclick. That takes away the power from upcoming Impera Brigades, and also prevents something like a Nausicaa Brigade, for example, even though that would be less likely. So no, I don't think that was a misclick, even though you can make an argument for also being able to bounce back Kalak, but I like that too. You technically, if you bounce Kalak back, you're technically not getting, you're not getting any extra value from that. You know what I mean? If you just return an emissary, it's kind of. I like that play.
I cast myself upon thy mercy.
Just have the view shifting here. We're going to be backing at the other view in just a second here. It is tough in the Nilfgaard mirror because we do want to make sure that we can see all the picks here. So this is Coleman's side now looking. flip back here. Now we have 2 Enforcers on the board here. Miguel, what would you say gives a player the biggest upper hand in the Nilfgaard mirror? Because I'm sure you're no stranger to Nilfgaard mirror.
As I said, the Guardian. Whoever gets the Guardian value round 1, that makes the biggest difference, and it's definitely looking very good for Freddy in that sense. Now, one of the bad points of like not returning Kalak instead of the Emissary is that he can play Kalak now and go into Ambassador to protect him. You know, we did see that play earlier on today. I believe it was done by Tailbot, if I'm not mistaken, which is very nice. And we see double Enforcer in Freddy's side of the board, while Koloman's own Enforcer has been knocked out. That is huge. Double Enforcer plus Guardian, even though Freddy is going first, it puts him in a very, very solid position, as Koloman has to fish for another. Or just drop the Enforcer, which makes a whole lot of sense because you equal the playing board again.
It's true. I mean, both players being able to get that Enforcer, the double Enforcer out. Koloman's in a catch-up position at this point. He does have 2 pieces now of the engine. He does have the Enforcer and the Brigade, and Freddy just has the Enforcer. But that can change very easily.
Please wait, Your Excellency.
And try to fish out
I'm
something
falling
else here.
behind.
Going to go for the chain, looking for that last Enforcer, or perhaps the Vico for the Emissary.
It's risky. It's risky. He wants to go for the Vico to continue the chain, but he does risk not pulling the Enforcer again, and Freddy does not want to get screwed, and he just pulls the Enforcer there. It's the safest pull because it ensures that you can eliminate that, and just continue to ping him, man. Like, look at all those hits.
So much
Almost
power
knocking
from
out the Brigade. Almost knocking out the Brigade right there, getting him 9 points ahead. This looks really solid for Freddy. While Koloman has not even been trying to attempt to hit the Guardian and set up that muzzle, even though Freddy cannot counter the muzzle with his own muzzle, he still does have Peter, or he still could. I mean, it could force him in a very bad spot. I wonder why he's not going for that. I guess he really wants to deal with the engine first to make sure that he can stay at the same amount of strength. It's the most important approach. But I'm telling you, man, the Guardian is the big difference here. If that Guardian gets to proc for Freddy, that could be devastating, absolutely devastating for Koloman. Regardless of how many emissaries he's pulled through, how many bronzes he's gone through, it will weaken Joaquim as well. It just weakens the entire game plan of Nilfgaard Spies, which is a deck that really relies on utilizing your own deck. So it pulls a lot of its resources out of the deck, and if you mess with that, you weaken it severely.
Once again, Koloman having the decision between Vico Varomedic and the safer choice right there, just to develop a little bit more. So again, both players only really having 2 parts to stick of the engine here. Double Enforcer is pretty strong here. He's going to grab that last emissary, dropping it out. That's all the emissaries for... Actually, no, he picked up one of Koloman's emissaries. He may still have one.
If not
the
by
difference
strength,
between double
then
Impair
by
Brigade
stealth.
versus double Impair Enforcers is I would take double Enforcer any day. They generate less amount of strength on your side of the board, so they're less vulnerable to removal cards, and they also disrupt what your opponent's trying to do, and that is such a strong tool, which is why Impair Enforcers is the absolute staple of Nilfgaardian Spies.
Quite a stark difference from the first match where we saw a quick round 1 and 2 and a long round 3. The Nilfgaard plays here are now all about securing round 1, trying to get ahead here. Freddy now with the double Enforcer, looking a little bit better here, 15 points ahead of his opponent here in Koloman. Koloman does still have another Brigade in hand with 2 disloyal units on the board, so he's able to at least get, another piece of, another way to at least snowball here as he plays yet another emissary.
It's also important to know that Kahir is extremely good in the mirror, as you can not only disrupt the likes of Iris, which even though she's not present in both these decks, it can also bounce back Spies. There's so many things you can do with Kahir that can work really well against another Emir Spies build, which is perhaps one of the reasons why Freddy really likes it. I've always seen Freddy go for that, but now he gets the muzzle, which means that even if Koloman were to set up that muzzle, Freddy would be able to counter it. So it's looking extremely good for Freddy here, despite the fact that he went first. He's managed to play Cantarella and stay ahead.
Yeah.
That is so massive, as Koloman's going to respond with his own Cantarella, which, on the other hand, will not put him ahead. It will put him behind.
I shall be your
I was just about to... You detailed it perfectly right there. Being able to play Rainfarn into Cantarella is already pretty good. It does reduce the risk of playing Cantarella, but with double Enforcer on board, you do get that extra 4 points on top of that, and Freddy Babes could definitely afford to play that. Now he has got a sizable lead here, and even though Koloman did kind of this is very much a mirror match here. You look, the boards are they're very similar. Cantarella does kind of stabilize what Freddy Babes was trying to do here. The concentration on Freddy Babes' face right now. How is he going to add this up here?
That Imperial Brigade in Freddy Babes' hand is representing 16 strength, which is a lot, and we may see a pass here because the thing is, both players have played Cantarella at this point. The problem is if Freddy goes for this, he's basically giving the Coleman the ability to open pass the following turn, and he will give him the last say, but he will have him draw Lesser Guardians, and that's basically what he wanted. If Lesser Guardian goes to the graveyard here, that will put him in such a solid position.
So Coleman can get this done in a card, and that would be, well, Muzzle is one of the ways to do it. I mean, there's a couple of ways that he could do it.
Imperial Brigade is the best.
Imperial Brigade is
it's the best option.
play.
Yeah, it's just, it's a unit that really gets the value. Yeah, I would 100% go for Imperial Brigade, I think. Unless you're aiming to immediately open pass after that, you may want the engine, but I still think it's the best thing to drop. Vic of Our Medic is so solid, especially in a mirror. It can become whatever you want it to be. Muzzle is always great. Joaquin is a win con. Rainfarn is also a win con. Is it like you drop it, Imperial Brigade, or is it Azir?
You're gonna get the job done.
But he misses on Roach.
Oh, he's running out of time.
He's returning.
And he's got to play another card here.
Oof. What?
That's tough. That's a tough one. He's going to go down 2 cards here when he could do it in 1. I mean, that's tough. I mean, he missed out on putting Roach back in the deck here.
I'm sorry, I can't explain that play. I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing something. I can't explain that.
I mean, it is possible. We've seen Coleman make some pretty surgical decisions previously. Or Freddy Babes definitely looks a little bit more relaxed than he did a couple minutes ago. So, could it have been a miscalculation from Coleman there? No, we don't see every possible outcome and decision, every matchup, of course. You get to see both hands. That is the blessing of being a caster. You do get to see the deck list. We do have a lot of knowledge here, but that one, I also have a hard time explaining that one.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think it may have been a misclick. I think it definitely was a misclick, right? Like still, but I don't.
Coleman,
anyways,
Coleman's body language is suggesting that he may not be pleased.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a mistake. That is a mistake. That is 100% a mistake.
Oh man, if that's the decider, that's unfortunate. That's super unfortunate.
But I mean, hey, it's only the fault of the player, right? Like you can't blame anything else. Like he had the time, he had the Imperial Brigade to drop. He was hovering over it, but then he opted to go for this here. I would love to ask him what his thought process was there, or if he slipped. Something must have happened because I cannot justify that, as this puts Freddy in a very solid position. He has +1 card advantage, and Coleman is looking at 2 emissaries in hand. Wow, he has 2 Lesser Guardians in his deck. Yeah. Coleman is in an absolutely abhorrent position right now.
There is a possibility that he plays Emissary and sees 2 Lesser Guardians, which would be disgusting.
Does Coleman have any spies left?
Coleman does have, well no, he has the Emissaries in his hand, he has Joaquin in his hand, Cantarella has been played. And I do believe that it's possible that Rainfarn, we've seen this already many times in the tournament, Rainfarn not looking so great here. This is starting to become much more favorable for Freddy Babes with each passing turn.
I mean,
that's going to get stolen right back here, right? That's a wash.
Yeah,
just a wash here, so we go 1 card further into the round.
I think you definitely counter Muzzle here. Like at this point, you don't have to worry about the Guardian anymore. This is the best target. You just quite simply counter it. I definitely think you go for this. You can also go for Kahir into Muzzle to return the Vic of Our Medic to hand, because he does have a buffed up, a strengthened Nausicaa Brigade in the opposing graveyard, 9 strength. So he definitely wants to steal that. So I'm expecting Muzzle, into the Vic of Our Medic return to set up that Nausicaa Brigade. I feel Coleman is in, as I stated previously throughout this event, Omega Rip mode.
Yeah, dire straits indeed for Coleman here. Is going to have to try to find a way to break through, but when you have a gold card, that's not going to do very much for you.
Oh man!
You already used a Seer, like that little extra push that a Seer gives you. That's one of the other main differences between Coleman and Freddy Babes. Because Freddy Babes is not running a Seer nor Roach.
Okay. He does have an emissary.
Does have an emissary. Our fault. we're trying to keep track. In the mirror, it's a little tough, right? All these little eyeballs staring back.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, I wasn't sure if he had like one emissary or not, but yeah, okay, so it's not as terrible. He's still one card down, and that buffed up Nausicaa. Yeah, we're definitely going to see Infiltrator into the Impair Enforcer, and then he's going to follow that up with the Vicar of Aromatic onto the Nausicaa Brigade. That is 9 strength, so it will become 13 after it knocks it out. And that is a 22-point swing from a Vicar of Aromatic. That is bonkers.
It's pretty good. Also pretty good. I know in Menno in hand for Freddy. I mean, we can start dissecting the hand right now and just going through how strong Freddy Babe's hand is looking in comparison here.
Please wait, Your Excellency.
You know, Joaquim is going to get...
Oh my God. The power of the Guardian of the Mirror, ladies and gentlemen. Yep, I'm pretty sure Freddy Babe is in a very soft position here. That is a massive Nausicaa Brigade. Look at that thickness. Look at that power.
A landslide of misfortune here at this point for Coleman. That Lesser Guardian is like, I'm still here, buddy.
A bit of bloodletting.
You know, you called it at the very beginning. The Guardian is going to be a key factor in the Nilfgaard matchup. We've seen a lot of stuff make some differences here, but that was gross.
Yeah, the Guardian is so devastating. It's kind of ironic. Like, it's pretty good in a lot of matchups, especially like Northern Realms, for example, but it's not nearly as good as it is in the mirror match, because the deck that is the most reliant on, you know, picking up cards from your deck, not like spawning them like mustard, right, like Northern Realms, but picking them up, like selecting them from your deck, is Nilfgaard itself. So it becomes really susceptible to that.
Nothing now.
Banhamar providing him with a 14-point swing right here, which is decent for silver. You know, it's good enough, especially considering the tremendous lead he has right now. And man,
16-point brigade, not
this
bad.
Peter's
but
nasty.
Peter's like, no problem, right?
Yeah, this Peter's absolutely nasty. I like that he plays Peter first because he wants to play around Infiltrator Menno, basically, because he doesn't know what Coleman has. So preserving the Joaquim to not have it be tagged with the spy tag with Infiltrator and then hit with the Menno, even though that's not what Coleman has. Freddy has played this game pretty flawlessly. What I believe Coleman has made certain mistakes and most definitely got punished for them.
You know, it's interesting though. I mean, we look at this. We look at the point disparity here. Let's say Coleman had an extra card.
I'm calling it. He's playing a Lesser Guardian. Got him. All right, Freddy moving on 2-0 over Coleman, 1 win away from becoming the Gwent Challenger #2 champion. Coleman has to pull a reverse sweep here to win.
I mean, both outcomes here are pretty spectacular. You have the chance to either have another 3-0 here, and when it's for the ring, that is pretty big. When you get to go 3-0 for the ring, you get the full amount of the prize pool, plus that extra 35 grand and a ring that you will treasure for the rest of your life. On the other hand, Coleman performing a reverse sweep would also be absolutely massive. We're going to see one or the other. Miguel, I mean, what do you
we have seen reverse sweeps happen numerous times before. Like, it's not an uncommon thing in Gwent, and especially in the Conquest format. You can seem very dominant at the beginning, but if you're not able to get that last win with your deck, and especially if your opponent is stacked towards that deck, you can still go down. So this is far from over, and yeah, he's... No, don't kill the barn! No, not the barn!
Somebody help him. What is going on here? Is there no security at this castle? Well, he's Nilfgaard loyal. He's Nilfgaard loyal. Bannon, help him. No, Bannon. Oh, wow. Stone.
Oh, he's stealing his guitar.
Cold.
Oh, wow.
Cold.
I thought he was a good guy. Honestly, he seemed like a good... can't judge a book by its cover. Freddy, life coach mode. Coleman mode.
I mean, Coleman's demeanor does not change very much in these games. He is just purely focused at all times, poker face. Freddy is just in full concentration. 1 win away for Freddy and a long road for Coleman. One way or the other, we are going to see a champion crowned in no less than 3 games.
Yep, and Freddy has his Cursed Rock-on Crate left, which is a really cool deck to witness, even though the lack of Herald Hounds now makes me a little bit sad, but otherwise it's such a cool archetype, and I'm very, very excited to see this match, which could potentially be the very last match of this entire event.
I mean, honestly,
here we go.
Here we go, folks.
Skellige mirror.
There's 3 mirrors.
It's 3 mirrors.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you're right. Holy shit. Oh, sorry. Damn it.
Was that Spanish,
It's gonna
Miguel?
be PG.
Yeah,
that was Spanish. I was saying siesta.
Holy
I almost made it.
Oh my god.
So close.
Oh man. So we're gonna get triple mirror. right after, you know, it's funny because we talk a lot about mirrors and like, you know, like the variations between the games in the mirrors. And when we saw the deck list at the very, very beginning of Challenger, I was concerned. I think that, I'm not sure if you were concerned, but I was a little concerned that the games were going to be very similar. We saw a lot of Bran, you know, Northern Realms had some variation. We saw a lot of Unseen Elder, but I think that overall these games have been very, very like diverse.
And
Freddy
exciting.
Babes getting Cursed all the way to the finals has meant that we've always seen Cursed take on Bran on the way up. And this is it. We are going to see Cursed and Bran finally face off, and this could be the deciding match.
It is. It is. King Bran taking on the younger Croc on Crate. Who will overcome? It has been 2 mirrors in a row, as you said, and Freddy has been the victor. But this mirror is the most different of them all, as both, you know, players are running different leaders, and both players are running completely different archetypes, which also function very differently. As we see Coleman leading off with King Bran right there, getting Mork Bark, Ceres, and Wolfsbane onto the graveyard with that Scorch in hand, which is very, very good in this matchup, as Cursed Skellige does revolve around setting up those beefy Berserker Marauders, as we see Freddy Babes drop Mork Bark and getting the lead by 2 points.
Morkvar coming out there, Olgierd being on Croc on Crate in this situation here, so he'll be able to play Croc on Crate for a pretty big swing, plus establishing a little bit more carryover. Sarius, of course, will be able to, so I take that, yep, no, Sarius will be able to assist Coleman in that situation. I mean, other than that, there's not a lot of similarities. I mean, the Priestess of Freya, always big in Skellige decks. Coral will be there, and there is a muzzle in each player's deck, but in neither player's hand.
Even though Freddy Babes does have access to said muzzle because of Royal Decree. Royal Decree can be either muzzle or coral. 2 very solid options for Freddy here, as Coleman is hovering over the Warmonger right there, which is a pretty standard play here. It sets the Ceres timer down to 2, and it also thinks through your deck and gives you with the tries you with the letter turn swing. That is what I'm going to go with.
It's boring just stomping here.
Coleman going for the Warmonger into Raider, whereas we've normally seen the Warmonger discard Battle Maiden and Armorsmith. In this particular game, Coleman has both of those cards in hand, so he can use Warmonger just to establish a few more points early on here, which can help him in this round for sure.
Indeed. Freddy Babes was hovering over Croc and Crate there for a second. It seems that he wants to get Olgierd out of the deck as well.
You've got the heart.
It seems like a fine time to do it. I mean, it gets you ahead. It's something you probably need to do that in round 1 here, and Wolfsbane is ticking, so points are going to be a big concern, even though, you know, Coleman is able to play the Warmongers and is able to source an additional one from the Heimei Battle Maiden. We could see that in a turn or 2 at this point. That Wolfsbane, though, will switch things around here when it gets back to Freddy's turn.
Now, this Coral targeting the Olgierd. I'm definitely expecting Royal Decree to go into muzzle, actually. Even though, okay, no, never mind, because Coleman does not have muzzle in hand, but he is running muzzle in his deck, so it changes things. I like this pass from Freddy.
Denies Wolfbane value.
I like this pass from Freddy. It's so good, because he has the carryover advantage here. Because Ceres is down to 2, which means that Morkbark will proc it once, but Morkbark, Coleman's Morkbark will be 2 points weaker than Freddy's, which means that Coleman cannot open pass on Freddy. And if Freddy continues to play like this and make sure that he stays ahead, he will have 1 card over Coleman, which could prove to be utterly devastating. But we have seen this type of strategy towards Coleman's King Bran before. And you know what stopped that? It was Scorch.
Yeah.
He has Scorch right there.
There is Scorch, and this is, you know, with Freddy, with Chris Skellige, you know, right now Freddy can't be open passed on, so Coleman is going to try to get ahead and get into an advantageous position, whereas Freddy, with each play, you know, everything gets stronger and stronger. The Berserker Marauders get stronger with each thing played. He has Heimei Battle Maidens to source the Raging Berserkers, which I was calling Young Berserkers all day yesterday.
Young Bears!
In my defense, they used to be called Young Berserkers, so I'll take that one on the chin, that's fine. But he does have a lot of ways just to get this going here. You know, being able to tempo out with the Raging Berserkers, having the Berserker Marauders available as well, and you know, a lot of these cards are no slouches. Skjal can produce a lot of value on top of all that. Once the board has been developed a little bit, it's okay if you get the Berserker Marauder or the Raging Berserker.
Freya is patient,
Freya's going to come out here for the Warmonger, and it's going to probably do a little bit more thinning.
Hovering over the Breezes of Freya, want to give himself a nice restore target and getting Ceres out of the deck, giving him a nice and 14-point lead over Freddy. Now, it's funny because you mentioned your slip-up with the Raging Berserker. At least you didn't call the game and then have like a necker pop out of nowhere. It looked like an idiot.
Miguel, I think for the viewers and for us and for the players, this has been a roller coaster ride of a weekend out in Poland. And I think that, you know, it's all going to be part of the story that we tell as we go to crown a champion here at Challenger. And it's been a fantastic run.
What an event, man.
I mean, it's been just fantastic to be a part of this, to watch the games and to cast the games, to meet the players, to see the players again in some situations as the Raging Berserker comes down here. So targets for Heimei Battle Maiden. Coleman is able to at least be ahead and even the score on cards, but Coleman is probably looking for an opportunity to have a little bit of a shorter round and have a more control, more custom round 3, which he has the availability perhaps to scorch a giant Berserker Marauder later on. Is he looking to take that Raging Berserker?
I think it's a good play. I think it's a good play because it does deny the Battle Maiden chain. And just to fall back on what you said there, the castle is also very nice.
The castle is nice. Just another day in Poland, right?
Best county, yeah.
Yeah, best county. You get the muzzle meta. It's this is, you know, we've seen a lot of muzzles, but the muzzle back and forth. We're anybody who plays Gwent on the ladder, no stranger to this. Muzzle does counter muzzle. It is one of the only ways to do it outside of Hand Marvin's Blue Dream. So
it is the best counter.
But that is huge, right? Being able to source that muzzle there, because those Heimei Battle Maidens, the only other thing that would really be going out here is the archers, which don't always get the tempo you need to get ahead in this situation. Yep. Berserker Marauders are more of a win condition for Freddy, so to not have that Raging Berserker hurts. So the fact that he's able to get this here, get it back, that's pretty pivotal.
It is. We're going to see the Grimace go down here. I wonder, he may just go for the Bloodclean Roar onto the Priestess of Freya for a nice...
That is your brilliant move.
A nice and 13-point swing.
You know, this is great. This is a lot of flexibility for Coleman. Depending on how he wants to use Restore, he can use Restore on Grimace if needed, but of course the Priestess of Freya is a fantastic target for Restore as well. Talking about Grimace, of course, being in the graveyard in a future round.
The time for blabbering
is fast. Heimei Battle Maiden going down, pinging the Raging Berserker, converting it into a #Young Bear, and getting the other Raging Berserker out of the deck as well, putting Freddy 7 points behind Coleman. He still has some catching up to do, but this cursed deck is very snowbally, especially because of that 8th strength unit sitting at the left side of Freddy's hand, the third one to be precise, the Berserker Marauder, which will get even stronger for each cursed unit and damage unit on the board. So it's Coleman can't go in too deep unless he's working for a 2-0 here, which we have seen him attempt before with this deck.
The Mother Goddess, she give us and take away.
Being the matchup against Tailbot in the semifinals, which he was able to do so because of that devastating scorch. So we may see the same approach being applied here.
Armorsmith going into the graveyard for Coleman, so he will have that on call if he wants to resurrect it. The only way he can do that really is by using that Restore, which I'm sure he already has a target for in the Priestess of Freya, but he also has Sigurd Rifa on hand as well. Miguel, what do you think Coleman's ideal hand is going into round 3? I feel like he might be using the Harpooners for tempo and just to kind of keep this round a little bit prolonged, try to bleed Freddy out, even though Freddy does have the extra card at this point. But ultimately, perhaps looking for the reses and the Scorch. The last raid perhaps maybe make things a little bit tougher.
Yeah, it's hard to say, honestly, because it doesn't look like Coleman's late game is that powerful at all. Especially considering looking at his hand, he does have Restore. Well, he does have Restore into Priest of Freya, which could be applied onto a Warmonger and getting one of the Raiders out of the deck. So that counts as 2 reses. One is procced by Morgvark, and the last one would be Sigrifa. So with Restore and Sigrifa, he can still get Ceres out. So he may be looking to thin up until that point. If not, he's going for the 2-0.
You know, if Freddy is able to 3-0 this, I mean, we've seen a lot of Gontaro Dim hanging around. We're going to find out who the true Master Mirror is here.
Coleman really, yeah, I like this pass. You have to take this pass. You can't risk Freddy catching back up. You at least take a round. And Freddy's going to go for the thinning play. I really like this play. As he gets that Raging Berserker out of the deck, and with this will improve his draws as well. And ladies and gentlemen, we go into round 3. If Freddy does win this round, he will become the Gwent challenger champion.
I mean, we've seen Coleman do so well in this tournament. Definitely do not count him out. But
No.
Freddie Babes already showing that he can 3-0 somebody like Life Coach. Coleman showed he can 3-0 somebody like Adzakov. Like, this is truly a clash of champions for sure. Both players have done incredibly well. But if a reverse sweep is on the menu, we are only halfway there.
Yep. Both players have been incredible throughout this entire event, just pulling up upsets, playing masterfully. But at the end of the day, only one can win.
Only one can win for sure, and it's a big win in Gwent Challenger, the biggest prize pool to date. Well,
Kind of makes me, you know, when I want to become a player myself, like, that's so much money. But it's risky. But damn, like, the prize pool has been so crazy.
Miguel,
Like,
I would miss you. You can't do them both.
I'm not. I like this.
Modern
I
Freya is
like,
patient, but she
missing
brooks
on
no
Neckers and
insult.
stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you could be the one cursing your girls. I think it's great to be a part of these tournaments, of course.
Ah, man, it's-
being involved in this way, the stress.
It's the dream.
Players, you can see
It's
it
the
kind
dream.
of. I mean, Freddie has. It's the best kind of stress, of course, when you're looking at a purse this big here.
There is nothing as rewarding as the success of a competitor. I have been a competitor myself in the past, in sports or games or whatever, and it's always like getting that win, working so hard, and getting that reward. It's very hard to describe, and the winner of these two, honestly, both of these players should feel extremely happy with themselves already.
Modern
making
Freya
it this
is
far,
patient,
especially defeating
but
such
she
high-class
brooks no
opponents.
insult.
But man, the one who overcomes
be
and
the
wins
bravest.
this tournament, he's gonna feel good. Let me tell you that.
Nothing to feel bad about, that's for sure. Coleman with a 22-15 at this point. Freddie Babes deciding his next move here.
This is intense. Right now, Coleman does have the lead, but again, Cursed has a lot of snowballing potential, but I'm looking at that Scorch. That Scorch is so menacing.
As soon as if anything lines up, Freddie Babes needs to be absolutely sure that he will not line up anything. The bears are the same, so only one bear can go down. He has to make sure a Berserker Marauder won't drop down at 12. He needs to make sure there's staggering and that he can't be unstaggered with the Harpooner, as we saw Coleman do in the Tailbot matchup masterfully, getting that beautiful
watch us and keep us.
38-point Scorch, I think it was.
Hovering over Scal right there. Gonna pull, I believe, the last Berserker Marauder in his deck.
nothing.
Yep, there it is.
You'll beg for death.
Setting up the other Berserker Marauder for 12 strength as of now, but Freddie Babes does have more options to increment that. He does. He's gonna opt to use the Archer offensively, it seems, because the Archer, the Clan Borgberg Archer, is not really necessarily worth it if you're only gonna buff up one Berserker Marauder, because it does only count as a 5-point play, as you are hitting your own units. So it truly becomes efficient when you actually have 3 Marauders, because that way, even if you hit your own units and you only play a 5-point play, it does end up generating more strength. But when it comes to only one Marauder, it's not really worth it. So we're looking at an 11-point swing from that Archer, and hopefully he can build up that Marauder to a nice stage. As we see Coleman with a very menacing hand, though. That last he has to be careful, because if he damages units, he can empower the last Marauder by a lot. But then again, Scorch is the thing.
So, hower, just to build on your point about the Archer, the Archer actually can help stagger the units as well. So holding on to that Archer,
True.
knowing
Very
that
good point.
Coleman is holding
Very
on
good
to
point.
Scorch,
Yep.
that can be, I mean, he just has to be very, very careful. If he knows that he's at risk of actually lining something out, the Archer can fix that problem. But keeping in mind, like, making sure that his rows are always available to, like, he needs to make sure that the Harpooner can't line something up. But at any time that something lines up, if Coleman does the work for Freddie as opposed to Freddie playing into the Scorch is certain death. But having Coleman do the work here, he can use the Archer to stagger.
I honestly feel really good for Freddie making it this far. Freddie has won the first, I believe it was the first Gwent Slam, and the second Gwent Open. Has been one of the most successful competitors in between the periods of the first and the second Gwent Challenger, and has just shown so consistency. And it feels good for players that are so good and consistent to be rewarded like this. Very, very happy with his performance and, you know, with his progress as a competitor. But Coleman, man, Coleman, the dark horse. This is so exciting to watch.
Coleman's going to have to start investing these Harpooners to build a Lacerate row soon. He will get Scorch value, as there is, you know, the unit that will get Scorch is Freddie Babes. But if all that Coleman is able to get out of a Scorch is 12 or perhaps 13, it would be, you know, Freddy Babes would be okay with that, especially seeing how Coleman has already put that Scorch to work in this tournament.
Now, one of the things I'm curious about is I think he's gonna have to target the Clan Hemi battle maiden with the Restore and chain onto the Clan Borgvark Archer. Because I don't see any other target that Freddy Babes has for Restore, because he doesn't have the means and tools to discard a Priest of Freya like this card Brandon does. So I think we're going to see an Archer play pretty soon here, as he can afford to chain into another one.
This is interesting. Coleman decided to play the Harpooner to actually make it look like he's not holding the Lacerate, because he chose to not actually make a more favorable row for the Lacerate. As Lugos is going to come down here, perhaps denying, well, he's actually just going to go ahead and nuke the Freya. I thought that was going to be for the Harpooner, just to deny any future pulls here, although I think that since we've already seen the one Battle Maiden, that would be it though. So there isn't a risk of having another Battle Maiden.
Yeah, no, I like that play. Freya is doomed. Against Skellige, a lot of the things you damage are also vulnerable to Resurrection, so I like this. I think it ultimately doesn't truly matter. That Man Lugo is basically represented in a 14-point swing and a little bit of deck thinning, which is not truly relevant at this point. I don't know how to feel about Man Lugos. That doesn't seem all that strong. I mean, he's good at thinning, right? But in this case, it wasn't all that impressive. Freddy is in a... Like I said, that Scorch is super threatening. That Scorch is super threatening, and the fact that Coleman has last say means everything here, because he may try to stagger, but this Berserker Marauder is going to represent a total of, well, we'll see,
13. That's what I thought. There was going to be a 13 that was going to get caught by the Scorch potentially.
He can... No, but he can. Is there anything he can do to set that up? Because I was thinking about Dorgare into Drowner to line it up with the Bear, but then the Cursed Bear on the melee row is stronger than that, and also Coleman does have a Bear himself, so this Scorch only representing 13 value as of right now.
So Freddy just has to make his last play and be ahead by 13, because that Scorch may be the final play here.
But it's looking rough, though. It's looking kind of rough because, well, the Lacerate is also looking weak, though. But Freddy is only 6 points ahead, and he's down one
do
card.
not mince words on principle.
It's going to be a close one for sure. Here comes
Drowner is definitely the play. It empowers the Lacerate as well.
Again, not using the movement tools to create a more favorable Lacerate.
Keep together!
There's the Archer.
He didn't. I believe he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to damage something and empower the Marauder, right? Or,
well, we have seen all three Marauders at this point.
but he could have a Resurrection or...
That's true. That's true, and he does. He does.
Well, Restore... Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's why he went for the Morgvark, but that was only an 8-point play though with that Drowner. It's very intense, ladies and gentlemen. 7-point lead by Freddy, while Coleman has the Lacerate, which is looking to represent 9 value right here in the Seize row. While it could also, like I said, empower that. This is a very, very tricky scenario right here. I honestly, I just have to see what he opts to go with the Restore here. But the Restore into Battle Maiden, into Archer is so powerful. He's gonna go for the Scorch now. It's just gonna be 13 value. It's just gonna be 13 value. Even though Coleman is not that far behind, his last 2 plays are not that strong. His Lacerate is looking very weak.
Here it comes. Restore going to be on the Battle Maiden.
Onto the Archer. Onto the Archer. As long as he doesn't overstack.
The mother goddess, she giveth and taketh away.
That's too much. That's too much. He's got him. Wait. Yeah, he's got him. He's got him.
Show me.
He's got him. He's got him. Freddy. I'm sorry. Freddy Babes with the victory. 3-0. What? I was reminded of the Open.
The Master Mirror indeed. Freddy Babes 3-0ing 3 mirror matches. Very exciting matches. Subtly diverse. A GG coming out here. Well played.
Wow.